I have to do something today that many in my audience aren't going to like. How do I know that many in my audience aren't going to like it? Because the membership cancellations telling me that I am an evil person and not a progressive for my view on the Hamas terrorist attack have already started. Later in the show, I'll give you some specific examples of people who wrote in and said, I'm canceling. And I'll tell you exactly why they are doing it. But I know that there is discontent among some in my audience. There is a very good and important article that I would love for people to read. This is an article in New York Magazine by Eric Levitz, and the article is called "A Left That Refuses to Condemn Mass Murder is Doomed." And the most important point of this article is not about, oh, what about this detail from 3 years ago, or what about that bombing or this bombing or the number of rockets, or the context is, of course, the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel. The context of this article is the point I have been trying to make to what I believe are my fellow progressives, which is that we can't lose what the left is. We can't lose what the left is because of litmus tests or confusions or whatever the case may be about what it means to actually support and defend progressive values. And so let's look at a little bit of what the article says, and then we're going to talk about it. Eric Levitz writes, "This weekend in Israel, a far-right Islamist group perpetrated the largest mass killing of Jews since the Holocaust. That's true. Murdering entire families, including babies, in their beds, slaughtering 260 concert goers, more than 1,000 Israelis killed, over 100 taken hostage." Now, I actually would go further. I believe that by number of casualties, this was the most deadly terror attack since 9/11. Think about that. If anybody has an issue with that, let me know. That, I believe, is the reality, and that's an insane reality. Eric goes on. Israel's far-right government predictably responded by choking off all food, electricity, and fuel to Gaza's 2 million residents, and then preparing a military assault more untempered by concern for civilian casualties than ever before. That's true. And as progressives, we don't like that. We don't cheer that. We don't celebrate that. That's a disaster. Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, made the brutality of what is to come plain on Monday, saying, "We are fighting human animals and we will act accordingly." Even if you feel comfortable applying human animals as a term to those in Hamas willing to carry out this sick violence, the vast majority of Gazans certainly would be inaccurately called human animals. So there is going to be something disgusting to come, and we're already seeing it. But let's continue. And no small number of supposed leftists found in all this cause for celebration. Others, meanwhile, loudly refused to condemn Hamas's atrocities, insisting it was not their place to decry the military strategy or violent resistance of oppressed Palestinians. This is outrageous for anyone who considers themselves on the left to be saying. Now, I'm getting heat from people saying, "David, I thought you were a progressive." I thought you were a progressive, is my reaction. I thought you were a progressive. There is no progressive value here. And in fact, Eric Levitz explains it. In my view, these responses constitute a betrayal of the left's most fundamental values. Either one upholds the equal worth of all human lives, opposes war crimes, and despises far-right ethno-nationalist political projects, or one doesn't. What's more, cheering or publicly announcing your refusal to condemn the murder of children isn't just morally grotesque, but also politically self-defeating. And that is the second layer we will talk about today. It is bad for the Palestinians for the lack of full-throated, no equivocation condemnation of the terrorist attack of Hamas. And I'm not going to read the entire article. I encourage you to check it out. But one other important line. The West's apologists for Palestinian war crimes have far less power than its apologists for Israel's brutal domination of the territories and discrimination of Arab citizens of Israel. But precisely because left-wing critics of Israeli apartheid lack power, we must not forfeit our moral authority. So What are some of the points that are being made here that I think are really good? And I don't agree with every element of this article, but the main point here is we can't see the left lose what actually makes it the left. When we see videos, the video of the murder of one Israeli girl was posted to her Facebook page so that her family would see it. This is grotesque, deliberately brutal stuff. This is not a military operation. When I see some of my supposed fellow progressives say, listen, we can't criticize the way that the Palestinian military has decided to go after its targets. This is not a military operation, okay? This is a terrorist attack. Oh, but Hamas was democratically elected, so in a sense, it is the military. When was the last election in Gaza? It was in 2006. Is it democracy to say that based on the vote? And by the way, Hamas got a plurality, but not even a majority. In many places, you would say that's not actually enough to get yourself elected. Many places have a 50% rule, and many countries do. We're going to say this is a military operation, and these are valid participants in the conversation. It's not a conversation, it's a massacre, because of an election 17 years ago that was tenuous at best. So let's be actual leftists, which means what? When we are actual leftists, we don't support authoritarian regimes. We don't support terrorism. We don't support violence of any kind. And that includes violence coming from Israel to innocent Palestinians. We don't support movements that subjugate women or LGBT people or those who say, I don't want to be part of this religion anymore. We feel terribly for the Palestinians living under Hamas. Lots of the people supporting Hamas in the West would be killed by Hamas or at least subjugated. And that's lost on many of the so-called progressives on the left. So we need to make sure that we don't ignore death and suffering on any side. On any side, it's a disaster. It also has to be recognized that after a terrorist attack, countries will defend themselves. Apply what happened here with Hamas to anywhere around the world. And we would be saying, well, the victims have to defend themselves. Now, do they defend themselves in an appropriate way? Do they even go out? When we were attacked by al-Qaeda and went to Iraq, did that make sense? No, it made absolutely no sense. And so we can still be critical. We can still be discerning and all of these different things. But the attacks on me as I thought you were a progressive, I want to hear which progressive value I'm not espousing. And then, as Eric Levitz says, we can't allow the left to forego condemning unequivocally, no ifs, ands, and buts, no hedging, mass murder. And a little bit later in the show, I'm going to tell you about some of the really crazy stuff that's been said to me by some in my audience. We'll get to that a little bit later. Let's take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Our sponsor, SaneSmart, has everything you need for doing your own engravings and 3D printing at home. From CNC machines, laser engraving machines, FDM 3D printers, resin 3D printers, SaneSmart really has you covered, and they are ready to answer your questions. Truly unparalleled customer service. SaneSmart is super beginner friendly. Trust me, I don't know anything about this stuff. SaneSmart sent me their newest machine. It's their Genmisu 3030 Prover Max, which is a desktop CNC router. Basically, it carves different types of materials from metal to wood with extreme precision. This thing is awesome. Super easy to set up and just jump right into engraving. The machine is dependable. I love it. I used it to make these metal and wood engravings of our logo, which just look amazing. Getting into CNC engraving or laser engraving, 3D printing, this is an awesome hobby. The machines are small and can go in your garage or on a table somewhere. You can make really cool, unique gifts for friends and family, and it's just fun. That's the bottom line. You'll get 10% off almost all products when you go to davidpakman.com/engrave and use the code PAKMAN. The link is down below.